Hey guys, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, and I just wanted to do a quick Graflex blade holder video. Kind of informational, kind of a tutorial, just generally speaking, because there's so many options out there, and a lot of you guys have contacted me about building Graflexes and all the various and sundry different versions that can be built of a Graflex. And so I thought it might be a good idea to kind of show you guys what you're dealing with when you're talking about building a Graflex and what you can do, some of the different options, and what they look like. But also, most importantly, I think, because I just got this guy in last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, and it is definitely, up till now, it's definitely my favorite blade holder by a long way. This is the Solos Hold version 2, maybe version 3, premium blade holder, I think it's called. But they really did a great job. Beautiful design, beautiful execution, really nice materials. And I wanted to kind of show you guys this in case any of you guys out there were thinking about getting a Graflex done, just so you know what your options are before you pull the trigger on something and then end up regretting it, because there are so many options. It's really easy to end up getting something that you actually didn't really want without even knowing it. But at any rate, so when you're talking about getting a Graflex done, there are three, I would say, three main contenders for the nicest Graflex. There's Martin Bayer's chassis. This is this guy. It's a Metal Master chassis. This is a Solos Hold version 1, I think, blade holder on it. It's a beautiful, beautiful chassis. It's all metal all the way through. Nice individual metal fins. Crystal and a plasma gate. Takes an 18650 battery down here. And I'll fire it up for you guys. Lots of places to put accents and such into it, as you can see from this guy. The second option is the Goth 3 Designs Mentor chassis. This is a Mentor chassis. This is a hybrid, so this is not exactly a standard version, because I built it when the version 1 of the Mentor was all that was available, and then the owner sent it back to me for upgrades, and we put some version 2 parts on later. So the bottom section here is mostly version 2, with the top section being version 1. And they do, for the most part, fit. It took a little bit of modification to make everything work, but not heavy modification. On this guy, I think this is a MB Sabers blade holder on this one. There are so many that it's hard to even keep track of them all. And it's hard to identify them when you're looking at them, because, like I said, there's just so many. Fire this guy up for you to see it as well. Well, this guy doesn't really do much until it's turned on. But in most cases, in almost all of them, one of the common denominators is that the activation and auxiliary buttons are typically mounted right to the blade holder, and then when you insert it up into the chassis, they line up with the slide tab and the red button, so that you're pressing these buttons using this. And then the other common denominator is that typically on the nicer ones, half of the brass pins, the contact pins, are located on the chassis itself, and the other half of them, the other two, are still up here in the top of the hilt, so that way you can take this guy out of the hilt without actually having to remove the pins, unscrew them, and then slide it out. This guy will just slide right up in there, because these pins are short enough. But if you want to have longer pins, then this split design won't work, because these two are still here, not here, and therefore you have to have the shorter pins. And the shorter pins are not screen accurate. With the MB Sabers chassis here, the Metal Master, it is the same setup, on this Solos Hold version 1 blade holder. And again, you see short pins because half of the pins are here and half are here. So in order for this to just slide home like you want it to, you have to have short pins. And that's not really ideal, but generally speaking, the point is there are a bunch of different blade holders, and the first real designation is where are the pins located? Are they located in the part that stays on the hilt, or are they located on the part that stays on the chassis? And is it a separatable blade holder? Because not all of them are. Some of them, the earliest models, were just one piece. And so when you wanted to pull it out, to pull the chassis out of the hilt, you had to take that screw out and all 4 pins and whatever set screw you had, and probably loosen the red button, and then you had to worry about the auxiliary switch and the slide tab and everything getting in the way when you tried to take it out. So the evolution of the blade holder was such that basically you wanted a really good functional blade holder that looked screen accurate while at the same time being easy to use and handy in taking the Graflex apart, because the Graflex is one of those sabers that it's basically a shell around a chassis that is just all tricked out and really, really nicely set up. So you want to be able to take it apart and show it off. Here's my crystal chamber, here's my plasma gate, here's, you know, all my different greebles and whatever I've got going on in here. So you want to make sure that it's easy to get out of there, but with a blade holder that still works correctly with your buttons and looks good, holds the blade sturdily. So that was kind of the first real question when it came to how do we update from the original old school one-piece blade holder. So there's a whole bunch of the original first attempt at modifying. This one is the Graflex shop. This is a 2-piecer, but the second piece is just the very top here, and there are 2 screws that hold it in. So this is a good example of one of the early ones, because with this guy, if you took these 2 screws out, then you could slide the whole thing out, but you'd have to take these pins out, and the glass eye, and the screw, and deal with your buttons. And the glass eye isn't going to have any shine through because it's solid metal here, so you can't have any light shining through that because you have to screw the glass eye into this, which means even that small hole is going to get blocked. So, kind of the next evolution of it was to put small holes around that center screw, so you did have some light coming through, and to make it into a 2-piece item. I'm pretty sure that this is a Roman Props Graflex blade holder. 99% sure that that's what this one is. And this is a good one. It's a functional blade holder that really does work well and is really accurate. It's got nice accurate cutouts here. This section where the screw and the little metal tab contact is accurate. Plus the depth of the circle cutouts is accurate. And you have nice channels for your buttons and wires. So this was a pretty good setup, especially because it was split in 2. But you still have the same problem of needing to have the shorty pins. This, I believe, is, I think this is maybe the first or second version of the Solos Hold Graflex blade holder, and this one is a lot like the Romans in that it's 2-piece, channels for your wires and switches, but still with the same inherent difficulties, but no cutouts for light to come out, so that's why this one has been widened by the previous owner. This guy is a Solos Hold. I want to say this is not obviously not the most recent version, but nearly the most recent version. I want to say this is like two variants ago. And you'll notice that these side indentations are deeper. I think the intention was so that you could have longer pins, but they didn't make them quite deep enough. But again, it's 2-piece, and you notice that it starts getting less and less complex where the pieces fit together. And that is to make things easier when you're pulling the chassis out. You don't want to have 19 different tabs and pulls and holes that you need to worry about lining up when you put it back in there. You just want to slide it in and have it go in. And this guy is very simple, you know, and the rounded piece here with this rounded hole almost acts like a guide. As long as you get it kind of close, it slides in. And so that's kind of the next step. The third variant of a Graflex that you can do, not the Goth Mentor, not the Martin Bayer Metal Master, would be the Corbanth Graflex 2.0, Graflex 2.5, whatever you want to call it. But that's got a wholly unconventional blade holder. This is the blade holder that you get in the Graflex 2.0. I don't ask me why it looks like this. I couldn't tell you. But if you look at it from here up, you'll notice that it's pretty reminiscent of these guys. You've got your cutouts, screw hole for the glass eye to screw into, and right here would be your main power switch hole with wire slots, but no real auxiliary switch cutouts or wire spacing at all. And then there's this whole extra section here, which I'm guessing was intended to act as a heatsink, or maybe they made this part out of extra parts that they had left over from a previous run of Luke Return of the Jedi hilts. I don't know. I mean, really, who knows? But this guy is still a fully functional blade holder. It still works. You know, it holds the blade well, and you can set it up. And if you do a little bit of work, cleaning out some of this, taking away some of this metal area here, you can get an auxiliary button in there, and it works just fine. And once it's in the hilt, you're really never going to notice. The only real difference is this lip that's missing off this guy, but 9 times out of 10 you'll never notice that little thing. But when it comes to taking the chassis out of the Graflex hilt, if you've got a Corbanth 2.0 Graflex or 2.5, this bit's never coming out. This bit is intended to stay in there, and then the crystal chamber and chassis section slides into this and locks in using a set screw that goes in here. So that bit can slide out, but this bit is meant to stay inside of the hilt. And this was actually a really well thought out design. When Corbanth did the Graflex 2.0s, it wasn't all that long ago, 4 years, 5 years maybe, when that design was thought up, and a lot of fan input went into it, a lot of thought went into it, and how to set up the blade holder so that the Graflex could really work, and you could take it out and show off the crystal chamber and stuff, but not have to deal with the buttons coming out and the pins being in the way. And basically what they decided was just leave it in there. You know, just have the chassis slide into this, but leave this part in there. Problem with that, though, is that, sure, it works, but you're missing out on the opportunity to make that much more of an awesome-looking chassis, internal component part. Because basically you're cutting off this much, and this is the part you get to take out and show off to your friends or at a convention, and this whole top half just stays in there. So that's why that guy is, you know, it's an inferior option. It doesn't work any less well, don't get me wrong, just you're left with less possibility of making things fun and fantastic and adding more style and more elements to it. So this kind of came and then went, and while Graflex 2.0s, 2.5s are still for sale and still being used and bought and built, probably you won't see very much more of a blade holder design like that. But for those of you guys who have those, if you have a Corbanth 2.0, 2.5, you can, as you know, it's perfectly good, it works, and you can upgrade from this to this in that chassis. You just have to do a little bit of custom work, a little bit of tweaking to make the bottom half fit onto something like this. They all have holes on the bottom for threaded rods, so you can make them all work with something like this. So if you have a crystal chamber master chassis, Goth Redesigns master chassis on your Graflex 2.0, you can add a section like this to it, basically, without too much difficulty. Now, the newest version, there are 2 main new versions that just recently came out. And when I say they're new, they're brand new. And they really have gone a long way towards upgrading. You'll notice these guys are all totally undecorative, just big black hunks of metal. There's nothing about them that's decorative or cool looking at all, with the exception that these guys started getting smart in making printable shapeways pieces that you could add to the blade holder to dress them up a bit. And they even flow right into the chassis if you notice. But still, at the end of the day, the blade holder was just not a design piece. It was purely a functional piece. And really, there was a huge section of the Graflex that really was just being wasted in all this area that you could have fun with, design, change, modify, add things to, that just was being glossed over. So the guys at, I think it's Nerfworks Lab, Solo's Hold, came up with this design, and as soon as I saw it, I knew I had to pick one up just so I could check it out and see how it is and work with it a bit. But I was amazed right off the start because somebody finally has done some decorative work here. This is no longer just a black hunk of metal. This is solid brass to begin with. Like, it is really thick and beefy. It's a heavy piece. And it's really well machined. Whoever did these did a terrific job, with the exception that mine has some strange pitting on the side that it came with, but whatever, I could probably sand or buff that out pretty easily. I did do a quick polish on this, that's why it's as shiny as it is. When I got it, it all looked like that bit right there in this cutouts area, so it was a very dull finish, but it only took 2 or 3 minutes to get it to polish up and shine like this. And then I ordered the Shapeways printed parts that you add onto this to dress it up further. So there's a battery and wire cover here, switch cover. So this L-shaped piece here is that. Your activation switch is this little tiny metal one here. It slides right through that hole. And this piece just clips right in. It stays on its own. And there's this stainless steel kind of fishbone looking piece over here. And then another stainless steel insert over here. And they're all just decorative. They don't really do anything. There's no function, but they look great. And then there are screw covers, which are an additional Shapeways printable piece for the 3 screw holes that lock either the LED or the blade connector in. So you screw them in and then you cover the screws with these metal printed pieces. And I did these in stainless steel just to match all the other stainless steel bits. And that looks so much better than the previous Solo Hold issuance. Like, they gave us this and it was great for a while. They've recently given us this, and this is so much better. It really is. It's just no contest. We take the glass eye out because that actually isn't part of it. So I don't want to confuse anybody. This doesn't come with it. This is the blade holder without the glass eye, but as you'll notice, there's nothing there to block any of the light coming through, shining through the glass eye. That's another nice step forward. The next biggest, most important step forward, though, is that where it separates, you'll notice both pins stay in the top section, which stays in the hilt. So now, when you're pulling the chassis out of the Graflex hilt, you don't have to worry about having short pins or removing the pins or anything like that. All you have to do is unscrew the glass eye, which keeps it locked in place, and the whole thing will slide right out. So it's one step to remove your entire Graflex chassis with crystal chamber in it. You just unscrew the glass eye, slide it out, boom, Bob's your uncle. And everything comes out with it. And you're left with your entire Graflex with this bit on top. So let's envision real quickly what that would look like. That's a good looking Graflex. Really, it is. And now you'll notice that it's totally consistent from top to bottom too. It's all brass, bronze, stainless steel, and some gold. There's nothing, there's no black, there's no, elements or metals that are out of place or, different looking. Like, that just doesn't look like it goes. It really doesn't. That goes. But at the same time, this section that stays in the chassis, or stays in the hilt, and that you see on the outside of the hilt when you're looking at the fully assembled lightsaber is black, and is going to be screen accurate and really nicely screen accurate. Like, they really did a nice job with the cutouts, with the matte finish, with the depth of the side cutouts, and the ability to have the long pins, and the functionality of it. This is exactly what you want. This is what you want to see when you're looking at this section. It's going to have a nice lip hangover. It's got this little contact pin that you would see through that hole right there. So this bit is still screen accurate, but now you're dealing with something that is totally user-friendly, totally screen accurate, totally consistent looks-wise with the internal chassis, and takes advantage of all that extra real estate for decorative, just custom appearance ability. And so it's really a huge step forward, and I'm really impressed with it. So I wanted to kind of share this with you guys so you guys could all just see what it's all about and what the options are. The other one that we have recently been has recently been released by Martin Bayer is his MB emitter version 1 and version 2, which are nearly identical. And just so you guys know, this is a NeoPixel Pogo pin connector by Stock Custom Works with a blade connector holder and a clear plastic frosted screen to go over the NeoPixels so they illuminate from behind. That's what's in there, and that's also not a part of this. But it, I got these parts at the same time, so I just threw them together and assembled it up just so I could see how it fit, and everything works really well together. So, but like I was saying, on to the last of the new options. This guy right here is the other new option. And this guy is very reminiscent of the new Solos Hold version, with the exception that it's black. MB Sabers does offer the same setup in silver, but I haven't seen it in person yet. I don't know if it's anodized silver paint, or if it's actually, a hunk of aluminum or a hunk of brass that's been metallized or something. I'm not sure exactly how it's done, but I would say personally, I really like the look of this emitter. I think it's beautiful. I think it's really well done, but I don't like the fact that it's just the standard black metal like all these things have been forever, because it just doesn't go with the Graflex. There's nothing in this says, oh, I want some black metal. It just doesn't work. It doesn't go together. That being said, the additional elements that you can print and customize through Shapeways, I think, are better on this guy than the ones that you have the ability to get for Solos Hold. Like, these are nice, don't get me wrong, but they're kind of vanilla. They're just decorative greebles, nothing special or crazy, and there's nothing about them that screams Star Wars to me. Like, that says Fishbones, this says, I don't know, Empire State Building, and this says, I don't know, Lilu Dallas Multipass. I don't know. Who knows what those are? But this guy is totally consistent with the MB Metal Master. You've got piping still running throughout, so the piping motif is going to continue, and all the little cutout slots that match the little cutout slots. So this is going to be uniform and totally match the motif of a Metal Master Graflex chassis. Plus, the button setup I think is maybe a tiny bit better because it's three-dimensional on the side pieces here, and the actual button plunger is a metal printed piece, and it doesn't have a button sticking out of the middle like this one does. Not that that's a huge difference, and this is great, it's awesome, it's a beautiful setup, but I do like that aesthetically a little better. That being said, I don't think you can go wrong with either of the two newer Graflex blade holders. I would say probably the biggest difference between these two is the price tag, because this guy I want to say is about $80 plus the cost of these additional pieces, Whereas if I remember correctly, this guy was $200 plus the cost of the additional pieces. So that alone, I would probably lean towards this guy. That is presuming that I can get over the fact that it's black, or assuming that the silver version is good looking. But that's really all I wanted to get across, to show you guys just all the different options that are out there, what the new ones are like, what you can do with a new Graflex build if you're deciding you want to do a new Graflex build. For those of you who are rocking an older Corbanth or an older Solos hold blade holder, what you can upgrade to if you want to, and why it would be a good idea, like what the benefit of this over this is. So, thank you for watching, and stay tuned. I'm sure I have lots more coming at you very shortly.